I literally got like dragged in to hospital, like, because I was just refusing, and the nurses were there and pretty much were dragging me, and I was just screaming. And I was underage then, like I was still a child.
How old were you at this age?
14.
Right.
But the way I was treated in hospital was really like not great either.
Yeah, so to pick up, like, you were forced into the children's ward.
Yeah.
Is this at Geelong?
Yeah, so they don't treat like this. They don't treat anorexic eating disorder patients like this anymore.
Okay.
To the best of my knowledge, I don't think they do.
Okay.
I just don't think the system was really set up for how to treat eating disorders back then, especially like children. So like I was taken into the children's ward with other children who just had illnesses and things, different things, not like a mental health ward. And I was screaming. So you can imagine the poor children in there, like they would have been hearing this girl just like going insane. But I was just put into this room and essentially like locked in there. I wasn't allowed to have anything. So no TV, no radio, no visitors, no pens, no paper, no books.
Whoa, why?
Nothing.
Like...
So the way they used to treat it was you're deprived of everything until you eat. So
oh my
it
gosh,
was
okay, right.
like it was like a torture.
Yeah, no, legit. Like...
Literally, like they would make you want to go insane till you eat. So they would come in with their meal and they'd be like, so you're going to have breakfast? And if you said no, like, okay, you're not going to get anything. Like, you have no privileges today.
Okay.
And a privilege is, like, literally, like, the radio or a pen and paper. So there was nothing except me in this room. I wasn't allowed to see my parents. No visitors.
Oh, whoa, that would be hard.
They left me in that room for days and they would bring in meals until I was just refusing them and screaming, crying.
Was also part of you, like oppositional... defiance? Like, were you kind of defiant? Like, well, screw you, I'm not going to play by your rules.
Yeah,
like...
and because before that I was admitted, like, I was still eating some things. Like, I wasn't completely not eating all day.
Right.
Like, it was probably not even one day where I didn't eat anything. Like, I was still eating, but just very minimal.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was in hospital, that was, like, the only time I then completely stopped eating and wouldn't eat anything. And they, in the end, had to give me, like, the nasal gastric tube to feed me. But I still had to eat their meals to be able to get privileges.
Whoa. So with the thing, so, like, when did you get that put on?
Probably the second day. So,
okay.
like, probably it was, like, one day where I refused the eating and they said, if you don't, we're going to put this tube in.
And, like, how did that go down? Like, did you try to fight that or, like...
Yeah, you had nurses, like, holding me down on a table.
Could you not rip it out after, or they...
I could, but they would, like,
do it again,
put it back in.
Right, yeah.
Like... You know, I tried everything. Like, I even tried emptying out my bag of, like, it was just like a supplement that they were putting in you. I tried to, like, pour it out and put water in it. Like,
wow, okay.
And apparently that's super common. Like,
really? Okay.
So the nurses checked and, like, knew that I was doing that.
Yeah.
But, like, so I had to eat to get privileges, and then eventually, like, I'd have whatever they gave me, and I was allowed to see my parents for maybe half an hour a day.
So how long did it take for you to start kind of eating and playing by their rules, I guess?
I think it was probably like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
But it actually did send me into a psychosis.
Right.
So because I was like literally in a room just with 4 walls, and they were drugging me, like giving me different things to calm me down. Like they were giving medication to like try to calm me down because I was just so hysterical.
Yeah.
I ended up having a psychosis where I thought like people were listening to everything. I thought there was cameras in the roof.
Whoa.
I literally could hear like patterns in sounds. And like then by like when my parents came in, like I started like saying like crazy things to them. Like the nurses, like they're watching me, there's cameras, like I can hear their chairs, and when they close that door, this is happening, and like there's this sound, this pattern. And I'd be like, listen to the sounds. And like at that point, Mum was like, what is going on? Like,
that must have been really scary.
Yeah.
And with the psychosis, did it come on slowly, or is it kind of just like one day you woke up? And...
Sort of slowly. Yeah, I started like saying a few weird things. But obviously because I was so deprived of everything, like I literally had nothing.
Were you seeing a therapist or anything at the same time? Like...
They had like my psychologist would come in and like see me, but like I mean they were coming in and prescribing me with like more medication.
Right. So they weren't really like focusing on the mental health aspect of anorexia.
No, it was like literally the goal was just to restore weight.
Okay.
And for them, all they wanted me to do was eat my meals.
Were you on like kind of suicide watch or anything? Because I think it's like 1 in 5 people with anorexia end up committing suicide or something like that.
I don't know if they were looking out for that at the time. I mean, maybe they would have been.
Right.
But, I mean, they treated me like a prisoner. Like, the nurses were coming in and just, like, they would not let me leave my room, and they would watch me go to the toilet. Like, there would be someone at the door, I had the door open to go to the toilet, have a shower with them standing there.
Right.
Like, I would have to get weighed naked with just a robe on with, like, you know.
It's almost degrading and humiliating.
Completely.
Like,
yeah, it was the most traumatic treatment, like, you can imagine.
Yeah.
It really was horrific, and it took me a long time to get over that, because, like, even the psychosis, like, for like a year or two after, I thought it was real for so long.
Oh, really? So it wasn't just like an episode and then it went away?
I was like, are you sure that wasn't real? Like, I really felt it felt so real.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, since getting out of there and then doing like my own research and things to try to get to come to terms with it, I suppose. Like, I hear that was very common, like a very common way of treating anorexia back then.
Really? So psychosis is really correlated with...
I don't know about the psychosis, but the treatment I received, it wasn't just like for me. It wasn't just me. It was like that's how they treated all sort of people.
Oh, it's really interesting because, like, I have a few friends who have had psychosis, and so it's really interesting. Like, I just really appreciate your bravery about it, because I feel like that's something that people carry shame about and stuff.
Yeah.
But knowing that yours is, like, obviously induced as well with lots of drugs and, like, just like the way they put you in, like, I can't, like, in my head I can picture it like 4 blank walls. I mean, even without drugs, I think I'd go crazy. With ADD as well, like knowing that you have ADHD, like,
you couldn't leave your bed, like, not even to get out of, like, I couldn't even like walk around my room. They'd be like, get back to bed.
Really?
Because they'd be like, are you exercising? So it was like,
oh my God, that actually sounds like a nightmare.
Sit in your bed all day.
So how long were you in that place for?
I was in hospital for a few months. So I think it might have been 2 months.
Okay, and
even 2 or 3 months,
right,
to weight restore.
And then, like, over that time, you got more and more privileges. Like, what did that look like?
Yeah, well, after I'd had my psychosis, so, like, after my psychosis got, like, quite bad, I think it was probably, like, within the first 2 to 3 weeks.
So what was, like, bad?
Like, I couldn't really have a conversation with people.
Right.
I was starting to, like, really just, like, fixate on noise in the room, and, like, my parents could just tell that I was obviously not myself anymore, like, completely away with, like, the fairies.
Yeah. And were they starting to think maybe this isn't a good idea?
Yeah, then they were like, no, we're not leaving her. So they were like, we don't want her here alone anymore. So they agreed to let my parents stay at night as well. So I was able to have, like, my mum and my dad stay with me. My grandma stayed with me, like, a few times.
That's nice.
So I was able to have, like, they let me have more privileges in that way. And I was allowed to go, like, outside with them, like, but they wanted to take me in a wheelchair. But, like, things like that I was able to have again, and a newspaper, a radio. But gradually they brought in, like, little things like that. But the first things I was allowed to have were, like, visitors, like, with my parents.
Yeah.
And that probably was helpful for me too, but for my parents to, like, be able to see, like, me. And
oh, yeah. It must be so hard for them.
Yeah.
And at this time, if your parents said, hey, we want to take you out of the hospital, would they be allowed to do that, or is it?
I don't know. So I don't know if it's, like, sectioned, like, I was held there because it was against my will, but I think my parents had obviously, like, signed me away to them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if my parents had said we'll take her out. I think maybe they could have. I actually am not sure if my parents were, like, able to take me out or not.
Yeah, okay. I'm just wondering if, like, like, they even, like, it could be a tricky situation where if your parents were like, we want to take her out, and they were like, no, that I can imagine that situation being really full on. I don't know if that's how it goes down, but, like.
Well, I think they were scared too, like, my parents to take me back home because
100%.
they knew, like, I think part of it was, like, they were relieved at least I was getting fed and, like, treatment, but then.
Yeah, they probably thought they were doing the best. And looking back now, do you think, like, that was, like, a positive thing for you, or do you think, like, some ways but it could have been better, or, like,
I don't know, I wish I didn't have to go to hospital because it was really traumatic, and I don't know, like, if it really helped me other than to weight restore it. I don't know, like, I really wish I didn't have to go down that path, but at that time I think I was so unwell that it was maybe the only option for me. I really wished I could have done it at home and done the family-based therapy and made progress there, but I don't know, I was just so determined to be unwell. I think that I was pretty far gone pretty quick, and it was probably too late for them, so they probably did the only thing they could, really. Like, I'm not angry that happened. I think I'm just, I guess I just wish I didn't have to go through that.
Yeah, and it's one of those things as well. I feel like the fact they weren't even focusing on the therapy side shows that there probably just wasn't the awareness that there is now, and like no one maybe knew how to deal with it.
No, it was not like, oh, this will help you long term, because like they didn't teach me anything in there to help me on the outside world. It was literally like, you're here to put on weight and follow our rules, and if you don't, you're punished for it.
Yeah, that definitely doesn't sound like a good way to go about it, in my opinion.
So no, it's definitely progressed since then from what I've heard. But it is a hard one treating eating disorders, I think. So everyone's eating disorder is so different. Like yours is so different to mine, and mine so different to the next person's, but like I just don't know what the answer would be for treatment. Really, because it has to be so personalized, I think, to that particular person and their eating disorder, their triggers.
That's so true. Do you feel like so you were in there for 2-3 months, you said? Do you know how much weight you put on while you were in there?
I actually don't know, because at the time I was stepping on the scales backwards, because like and I still like and I'm not really like, I try not to like fixate on weight at all either, like my actual weight, because and then coming out I didn't want to weigh myself, so because I didn't want to know how heavy I was. But like, you know, I would say now I would be like, I don't know, probably like 20 kilos heavier than I was then. Maybe. Like I was just I would have weighed like the same as like a child.
That doesn't surprise me.
But they would have had to get me to a point where I was obviously medically stable. So they were testing my blood pressure and my heart and everything to make sure that when they let me out, I would have had to have been at a point where I was stable. And
so like over those 2-3 months, did you, I'm guessing like you progressively gained weight and like you progressively got more privileges or like?
So I got more like, I was able to have visitors like my friends and TV. And in the end, I guess I was then treated like a normal patient. Like I had like, you know, just the normal access. I was able to go walk to like the courtyard and it was definitely a lot better, but I was still like, it wasn't like I could go out into, like I wasn't able to have like a day release and go out into town or anything. Like my most outside sun was like going to the courtyard and sitting out there for a little while, but so like I lived in a hospital for like quite a while.
And did you feel like you like mentally, I guess, did you feel like you were making progress, or were you basically just like, as soon as I get out of here I'm going to go back into like what I was always doing?
No, I think I did make progress, and like I guess because it was so traumatic in my head once I got released, I was like, I never want to go back there. Like it really scared me. And I had like PTSD like from hospital, like with hospitals for a long time. Like even I was admitted to hospital for something completely unrelated to an eating disorder like a few years later, and I started getting like the voices, like not like, but starting hearing sounds like again and like patterns in sound, and like really fixating on like nurses talking, and I had to like, they were meant to keep me in overnight, and I had to say to them like, I can't, you need to discharge me, I need to go home because I can't stay here. Like the environment was bringing back this like fear again.
Interesting. So and like with the psychosis, like once you left, like how long did that kind of stick around for? Was it something you had to kind of wean out of in a way, or was it?
I think once I left like the hospital, I wasn't going through, I didn't hear those sounds anymore. It was like the sounds of the hospital that were like bringing on that. But by the time I was discharged, that was fine. Like it was more just like, I'm sure that happened. Mum was like, no, like they definitely weren't filming you. And that was like the smoke alarm. That wasn't like a secret camera, you know, like that she had to like really convince me that that's what it was. But then, when I went back to the hospital like a few years later, just because I had like an infection that I needed like antibiotics. And they wanted to keep me overnight, and like, I was getting those voices again. Not like the sounds and just hearing things all over again. So I was like, this is like triggered obviously by the hospital environment.
And even like the energy there, or like.
I don't know. Like even the smells, like the smells of the sanitizer were like bringing back like this like fear and this feeling of being trapped again. So, but when I had Nellie, so I was in hospital again, I was actually like really getting worried that I was going to have those feelings again. And I was worried, how am I going to like stay in hospital after having a baby? But like it was actually okay. Like I felt fine. The smell of the hand sanitizer still brought back memories, but I actually like had a good experience in the hospital. So that was really good for me to like finally be like, oh, I had a good experience in the hospital. It's not a bad place. There are good people there that actually want the best for you
and to help you. And interesting.
So I've had to like reform a relationship with the hospital since then.
Yeah, definitely sounds like PTSD. That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's only taken like 10 years to get over it, but I think I might be over it.
I think that's a massive achievement though. I think some people never would get over it, you know, and that would be okay too, but...
Yeah.